Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the wide, wonderful world right now. Oh, I best turn off my phone, isn't it, while we're going live? But we're still going to keep it live. It's not fair to record another introduction. I am Stephen Drew from the Architecture Social. Thank you, Donia. Very patient guest. So, Donia Khafaga, it's a pleasure having you here. How are you?
Thank you
all
much.
Right?
I am great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Well, you're Perfect. A very persistent person because the laptop wouldn't work. Now the phone's working and we're here. We're alive. So it's a pleasure to speak to you. So we actually were brought together a little bit through Jason, who was on the previous podcast. So Jason is your mentor? Is that fair?
Yes, he is my mentor. We met on LinkedIn in 2018.
Great. All right.
Yeah, LinkedIn working wonders as usual.
LinkedIn connecting everyone.
Yes.
Well, LinkedIn is quite a powerful tool. You can
Definitely is.
I think you can also get a bit. It's a bit like Facebook, a bit like everything else, right? Sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming. But hey, it's really good that you have a mentor. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your background?
Sure. Right. So I am originally Egyptian. I lived in Egypt until I was 18. And I decided to obviously pursue my higher education in the UK. So I studied the International Baccalaureate. It was kind of like the only way for me to be able to move from, an education in Egypt and go study in the UK. So done that, got into the University of Manchester, or as I would say, the Manchester School of Architecture, because it's like a joint course. So I got into the Manchester School of Architecture. And then afterwards I came back home for a year because basically what happened was I was struggling to get a job just because I'm international, which means I need a visa, and we all know what that means. It's just hard work.
It is so hard work, and I'm glad you're having this chat about it because that's what I would say from what I do in recruitment. Visas can be quite problematic, and there's a few issues around it. Sometimes companies don't know how to sponsor people. Maybe they're not in the position to do it, but also it's a bit of a shame, as in I think a lot of the times people almost want to hire you or someone else. It just unfortunately it does make the whole process much more difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But I think it's also it's just the word visa and international that scare people off. I think because a lot of times if you just look into it, it might not be complicated because, because that's how it goes basically. If you're part one, right? So after I finished my 3 years and done my BA, what you can get on is something called a tier 5 visa. And that kind of visa, it's honestly the easiest visa to get. It's like an internship visa. And basically, if you're a part one, that means that you don't need any minimum salary requirements. You don't need it's just not a hassle. The company doesn't need to proper sponsor you. A third party can actually sponsor you through your company, and it's not even a hassle because it's basically treated as an internship, and that's how basically a lot of people view part ones. You still get paid obviously and everything, but it's just like a work experience before you do your master's, isn't it? So you can go on a tier 5 visa. And thing is, it's honestly super easy. All you got to do is get a firm that that gives you a position as a part 1 architectural assistant, and then what happens after that? You just talk to a third party. The best one is Isaac. They're known for dealing with immigration visas and international students. What they do is literally they talk to your firm. I think the firm has to pay something I don't remember exactly, 800 to £1,000 for the whole duration of your contract, and then the third party literally takes care of everything. It's super easy. Yeah, but a lot of people, I think it's just misinformation. People just don't know about these things, and then they just freak out the moment you say, I'm international and I need a visa.
I kind of was giggling there when you said the V word because it's good to have a sense of humor about this, and I like to laugh as well. But I've also been on the recruitment side of things. It's been quite frustrating times when, for instance, I meet someone talented, and let's say now we talk, we have your CV, and a company's interested in your skill set and abilities, I've learned that I have to make it very clear at the start that you have a visa, because sometimes you can find that we get very far down the process and then the employer's not too sure whether they can do the visa. And it's this big misunderstanding, like you said, of tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Exactly.
I don't know which tier. And I always used to get confused between tier 2 and tier 5, but my loose understanding, and I'm no expert and you know it much more intricate than me. I know in the general sense, but basically tier 2 is where it gets a lot more tricky for the employer, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where all the disasters happen in the tier 2 visa.
Well, it can make it really difficult, isn't it, for the person who has that visa, the tier 2 requirement. And
the requirements are a joke, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a bit tough, isn't it? And it's a bit of an unfortunate situation. And I do think as well there's a level of misunderstanding with it. And I do think that, and we agree, is that it's not that employers are being what's the word I'm looking at? It's like what you said. I think it's more to do with a lack of understanding. It's less prejudice. It's more just like, whoa, we're a small company. We can't can't sponsor someone. And actually, what you're saying is that the process is is not the end of the world, is it? It's basically a few £100, which could even be factored into a salary, I'm guessing, in one way.
That depends. So that was when it comes to the tier 5 visa. So that's the one that you can get in between your BA and your MA. So after you do your master's, you're going to have to go on a tier 2 visa, which is the proper working visa.
Yeah, oh no! Don't give me a tier 2. No.
It's really hard. No. I'm not gonna lie to anyone. It's proper complicated. Obviously, I haven't like tried one myself, but my brother has. So he studied basically at the University of Sussex. He did electronic and electric engineering, and then he did his master's in Southampton. He done mechatronics, and then for him there was no tier 5 option. It was straight away tier 2. And he came back to Egypt for a year. And during that year, it was the same year I came back as well. And we were both like trying to get jobs. But he obviously had to go straight for the tier 2. And you know what? It's complicated because it doesn't even like have to do necessarily with actually you getting a job and a firm that is willing to sponsor you. Even after that, the visa can get rejected. And that's exactly what happened to my brother the first time. You can still, exactly. Because at this point, after the firm that you applied for, they accept you and they say like, okay, we're willing to go through the process with you. Then there's the government and the people that deal with the visas on a higher level. And basically it gets really complicated because with a tier 2 visa, there's a limit of how many people they can actually give it out to. So they don't just give it out to anyone that looks like they're suitable. So for example, they would give it out only to maybe 20,000 people a year, like the tier 2 visa. Yeah, so there's the limit. And then after that, there's a fact that whichever firm is willing to sponsor you, they actually, and this part is funny, right? They actually have to show and prove that there's no one in the EU region or in the UK that can do that job except for that foreigner that they're going to hire.
That's going to be really difficult because there's going to be a lot of people who can, in theory, do it, right?
Exactly. Like it's very, very, very rare that there is a job that only one person can do it. Do you get what I mean? Like, especially if you're trying to be like a part 2 architectural assistant. Obviously, there's loads of other part 2s, but everyone deserves a chance. So it's just really complicated in that sense. And then there is the salary requirements. So if you're an experienced worker, the minimum salary requirement is 30K. And then usually they would actually they would give it out more to the people that have the higher salaries.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah, so architecture, you need to pay people more, basically.
End of the conclusion.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite interesting. So let's and I it's really good to talk about the process, but just to wind it back as well. So you did your equivalent of part 1 in Egypt, is that right?
Oh, no. Okay. No, I did it. So I actually I managed to get myself a tier 5 visa with the help of, so basically what happened was, sorry, I got sidetracked. I forgot that I was talking about myself and just went straight into the visa.
It's a good sidetrack. It's a very useful sidetrack. Very good sidetrack.
Okay, good. But yeah, so I came back to Egypt for a year when I was struggling to get a job. And then that's when I managed to connect with Jason on LinkedIn. So I don't even remember how the conversation started, but we just connected on LinkedIn. And then I introduced myself. I was like, oh, hi, I'm this and that. I did my BA in architecture. And Jason straight away was like, Jason studied in Egypt as well. He did like a semester or something like a while ago in Egypt. So, when I said I'm Egyptian and I live in Egypt, obviously like the conversation got interesting as well, because he loves Egypt. And then, yeah, from there, he was like, okay, let me see your work. So I sent him my portfolio, I sent him my CV. And then Jason was like, okay, I'm willing to help you. And that's how he became my mentor. We obviously had conversations. And then he was just basically helping me, as in suggesting me to people, so I can actually get recognized, because obviously it's hard to get recognition when you're international. So he was just suggesting me to others, obviously other than being my mentor and like actually guiding me through the steps and everything, he helped me in the sense of like suggesting me to others.
It's very interesting and it's very helpful. And I do think what goes around comes around. And I know
100%.
I do think the role of having a mentor is quite important. Yeah. So that you reached to Jason in 2018. That was after you studied at the Manchester School of Architecture.
Yes.
All right. And that was part one. Is that right?
Yeah. So that was my part one. Okay. And then I got a job at K2 Architects. So that's in Liverpool.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I done my 2 years as a part one there, and I just got back to Egypt 2 months ago.
Amazing. So are you calling from Egypt right now?
Yes, I am currently in Egypt.
Oh, that's why the line keeps going a bit, huh? we're halfway around the world.
Basically.
That's amazing. The reason I keep bringing up Manchester is because I studied there. So we're both MSA alumni.
Yeah.
So
hello.
MSA out there. I quite love the MSA. Yeah. Now I did my part two there, which at the time was with Richard Brooke, Nick Dunn, and you had Vic Kashal, I think Vikram.
Yeah.
You know Vic?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember all these people.
Yeah, Vic, if you ever listening to this, Vic, remember I did all the lighting for you in hospitality. I didn't get paid for that. You only give me food vouchers. I'm coming for you, Vic. I'm going to have to send him a link to this podcast and say, you made a very special entry. You know what? I had really good experience with. He was really good too. I quite liked it because he's quite... he was very supportive in unconventional ways, and I teased, although it would have been nice to get paid a few pounds for it, but I got that experience. He gave me experience that I would never get in life otherwise. So Vic, I'm only joking. I'm very grateful. Please don't unadd me on LinkedIn, huh? Guys, I love the MSA. That was really cool uni. It was really cool. I think because I went to I went to the University of Westminster, and I learned a lot. And just in case they listen, guys, I'm not saying it's bad. But I really learned a lot in Manchester because they encourage you. My perception is to become your own kind of architect, your own kind of style. And I felt it was less of a copy of a copy of a copy. Whereas I think when I was in Westminster, I was a little bit more seduced by the style of the tutors, and I kind of followed that. So, I mean, I had a really good experience in Manchester. Did you have a good time? Good uni?
I had a great time. It was my first time, like when I first came to University of Manchester, it was my first time in the UK as well. I've never been to the UK before that. So it was a great 3 years. I really, really enjoyed it. Like, the city itself, the university, everything was great. It was really good. It was hard. It was hard work, but it was really good.
Well, it might have been hard work, and well done on the visas and stuff. But you had the nice shiny campus. I was in the old one. Were you in the new building?
Yeah, the Bentley building. Yeah.
You had it easy. I was in the shed while they were doing it up. And it was fun, but it was a bit like camping. When people say like, it'll be fun, and you're like, I don't know if I enjoyed that. I did and I didn't. It was character building.
No, I get you.
I still had a really good time there, and there was some perks for it. But I am jealous of your campus. So you did that, and then was it a struggle after doing your part one? Basically, initially getting a job in the UK.
Yeah, it was a struggle. Like, it took me a year of like, I came back. So I graduated 2017. Like, I started working at K2 in August 2018. It was a struggle. Like, I even remember, like, when I first, so obviously after I graduated in July, I had like, I was in the UK until September. And I went on a few interviews, and I even remember, I'm not going to mention like any names, but I even remember this one time I went on an interview. It actually went well. And then, like, at the end, throughout the whole interview, I don't think they had any idea that I needed a visa. I didn't mention it, but somehow,
so you got to the end, and he was like, "What? You need a what? A what?
Yeah, I mean, I did the stupid mistake.
What?
I mean, honestly, I did the stupid mistake of assuming that just because of my name and my accent, they would kind of get the feel on their own that I probably might need a visa.
Oh, that was a bad assumption, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a horrible assumption. Because it got till the
terrible.
End. I don't know. I just thought maybe.
That's so funny, because it's like, come on. I mean, look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I voted to remain within the EU. I kind of feel like the UK is full of talented, multicultural people. And look, some of the best architects that I've worked with in terms of recruitment, honestly, like working with companies, really, really famous companies, and a lot of the architects that I had on contract there and introducing permanent roles with people from America, and that, that's a different thing, or Germany. In particular, some amazing Spanish architects. So, come on, we're a multicultural world. But you hit the nail on the head, and this is one of the lessons I always say, because I'm on the Architecture Social. I've done a few CV and portfolio reviews. I'm going to try and do a few more. But one of the things I always like to do is talk about is that in your CV and portfolio, if you do need a visa, it is always good to mention it at the start, and that's just almost save you time. Or what I find is that, or part of what I liked about what you're saying is, you kind of almost have to educate the company while you're doing it, And it was like, I spoke to a really talented, bright, young. I wasn't being ageist. Sorry, you can be bright and talented at any age. Architectural apprentice, and basically, she had to educate the company how to go about the apprentice scheme. And I think it's a little bit like that with the visa. When you say, isn't it? It's like, look, Mr. Director of the architectural practice, or Mrs. Look, we have to do is it's £800, and look, I'll even factor that in, or I'll make it easy as possible. I will do all the admin, and I think if you do that to people, then they're more likely to be open to it.
But that's if you get the chance, though, to actually get to that point where you can explain to them the process of the visa.
So the harshness of the light. Do you imagine this as someone there going like, we're looking at CVs and going, visa, and then it's like a trapdoor. You think it's like, visa.
I literally think that's how it goes.
Imagine.
I'm pretty sure every single office, they have like a stack of like CVs that said like visas on them, that they're just like, no, I'm not going to look at that.
Straight in the recycling bin.
Basically, straight in there.
Look, it's good to have a sense of humor. I don't think it's quite like that, but I do agree with you. Well, sorry, it's not quite as in the things are going straight in the bin. I think people do better. But we joke around, but there is a truth that I think it is a lot tougher in your position. And 100%. You know what? I'm going to be really upfront, is even talking about this subject, right? So working on one of the things that I wanted to do when setting up the Architecture Social and the podcast is I need to do an episode or a series about being an international architect or student. And everyone that I spoke to about the idea was like, what are you going to talk about visas and how complicated it is? And because they were like, oh no. And I'm like, well, it's a really important subject to talk about. But I agree with you. It's almost like people, I think, are nervous about talking about it because it might come across like we're saying that people are prejudiced or raised. And we're not saying any of that, right?
Yeah, none of that.
No, we're not. We're just saying how complicated the process is. But what is funny is the moment we start going into a subject like this, everyone has a freak out, right? And they're like, no, let's best not do that. And I think we have to talk about these things, and we have to acknowledge that actually it is really difficult for very good designers and architects like yourself to work in the country. And even now we're going to be, and let's be all realistic here. We're going, and look, I don't like to go on about coronavirus and Donald Trump kicking off, because we're all gonna have a nervous breakdown. But we have to be upfront with the fact that we are entering the EU, right? Yeah. We're exiting. So it's not even just like, it's not even, like the Middle East or Asia or America. It's like, anyone that's not from the UK. It's going to, you're going to need a visa if you're like, which I think is insane, but hey. So it's going to, I think the point is what you're saying. So you firsthand, and this is not an opinion piece or anything, firsthand, it's like, it was difficult, right?
It was difficult. I mean, it's just one of those, like, if you really want it, you're just going to have to keep trying, because it's out of like 100 people that you're going to talk to, only very little will be willing to listen. Because when I first got here, I was like literally calling firms like from Egypt. I wasn't even like, at this point, I gave up on sending emails and sending my CV. Because I was like, it's not going to work like that.
And there's a few things you got to do, isn't it? Like, I encourage a British number. You need that British mobile number. Most people will be like, oh my gosh, what number? And it's very difficult, isn't it? So you persevered. So maybe you can tell me. So you already mentioned that you really enjoyed working with K2, right?
Yeah, and it was really good experience. Yeah,
you've done an amazing 2 years and that. And before that, I love that you were part of the Rebus student mentoring scheme at Calasanati KL. I actually spoke to a project manager from Calasanati KL, and so she will be on another podcast as well. And it's and so my impression is that they were a really good company. So what was it like with Calasanati KL?
No, it was really good. Yeah.
And you were at Simpson Hoff as well. Oh, you got loads of experience, haven't you? Huh?
Basically what happened was my RBA mentor was originally at Simpson Hoff, and then he moved to Calasan.
Oh,
and I just went with him, basically.
Oh wow! You were like part of the I was going to say baggage then, but that's detrimental, isn't it? You were definitely not baggage.
No,
you're like Stephen. I am never coming on this podcast again.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
I gotta put down the foghorn. I'm getting a bit too power. What's the word? I'm getting drunk with power over here, aren't I?
It's okay. Don't we all at some point?
Oh, you got to have a laugh, haven't you? So, all right. So you went to Simpson Half, then you went to Calasanati KL, and then you did a little bit of work in sales, just zipping by, because I'm looking at your experience here. And then you were at K2. So how did it go with all of these employers with regards to the visas then, and how the whole process went with your CV portfolio? Was it similar for all? Were all open-minded? I guess there must be, right?
You mean when I got to K2, or before when I was trying to apply?
Yeah, both, or whatever you want to talk about first.
I mean, to be fair, when I was trying to apply, like, very little actually like gave me the chance to send my CV, because a lot of people, as I said, I did call a few firms, and the moment I say I'm international, they say, oh, sorry, we don't sponsor internationals. So it's one of those. And obviously when they say that, like, I'm not really going to be like, oh no, wait, give me a chance. It's one of those, like, you already know they're not really willing to look into it. So I'm not gonna, exactly. I'm not, and at this point as well, like, it was when I first actually got to, at the beginning, I thought I had to get a tier 2, but then that's when I was like, oh, I can actually get a tier 5. So even then it was still tricky, because I think a lot of firms, I don't blame the way they look at it, because at the end of the day, like, it's kind of like, why would you go through the hassle? Even if it's not that much of a hassle, when you can just, especially with part ones, because part ones at the end of the day, like, we do play an important role in firms, but they wouldn't really go out of their way for part ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's a thorny subject, and that's why I joked around earlier that people don't want to discuss it because it's one of these things of, look, there's a reason they hired you, or they saw something in your design, they saw something in you as a person, and I do believe, all jokes aside, that every architect or everyone like that, everyone's got their own unique voice. They've all got their unique design, and that's what these employers saw in you. But I agree with what you're saying. It's very difficult on paper, or from when you were saying from the tier 2 standpoint, that someone who doesn't know architecture, they're like, well, so this is an architectural assistant role. So couldn't anyone from the UK do it? But it's a bit more complicated like that, isn't it? It's about,
of course,
it's about a company. When they're interviewing you, they're looking at your style, they're looking at what you've done, your skill set, your personality, and they're looking if you can fit in the team. And the point is that you did manage to get those interviews, you did persevere, and then K2 saw something in you, I would imagine. So that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I was really grateful. Like, honestly, I was, because I kind of like, at this point, I was still trying, but I was like, okay, maybe not.
Well,
I was like starting to give up. Yeah, it is. But yeah, I think I just had nothing to lose. You know, when you reach that point where, I was in Egypt either ways. I was like, I'll just keep trying because I got nothing to lose. I wasn't going out of my way. I was just making phone calls and trying to network with people, connect, which was obviously still tricky because I was in a whole other continent trying to do that. But yeah, I think I had nothing to lose, and I also did really want it really badly. So I was just like, I'm gonna just stick with it, whatever happens. But yeah, deep down inside, I was a bit I was starting to lose my optimism.
Yeah, well, that's natural. I mean, I've been in that situation as well, and I think. I do like your analogy there when you said you felt like there was nothing left to lose. Then there's almost that's like the ultimate motivator in one way, because you may as well email the people, you may as well follow up, you may as well call someone, because there is nothing to lose. And I think that that's really, really good advice. And it could apply to a lot of people in a different way. Maybe, because obviously it must be quite a really, my heart does go out to people who have got a tier 2 or tier 5 visa in the coronavirus world right now, because it's like another barrier, isn't it? Because I think what practices are doing is everyone's trying to keep afloat, they're trying to look after their current staff anyways, and recruitment is generally down. There is still jobs out there. There is always jobs, and you've got to have that attitude that you were just saying now, if you've got to be you've got to be on it. And my opinion is, and you tell me what you think of this, I'm still amazed that I speak to people and they've sent 1 or 2 CVs out in a day, or I find that some really talented architects or part 2s they will wait for jobs online or job postings. And I think that if you're hanging around waiting for someone to put a job up on the zine, you're never going to, the chances are so slim. You've got to apply to companies which don't even post the job half the time. You've just got to you've got to showcase your work, isn't it? And try to get people to buy into who you are, because I mean, how many applications did you send? It must have been quite a lot, right?
I did, but as you said, I rarely, to be fair, looked at advertisement for jobs and stuff like that. I was literally going on websites, and whether they had vacancies or not, I would still make a call and email the HR or whatever I can do, just because again, a lot of firms, I don't know why, but from what I understood, a lot of firms, they don't really advertise in that sense. They don't really go on the zine, or they don't really put it on their website, but they might be looking. But a lot of the way they do it is, I don't know, either someone knows someone, or just people that they spread the word out differently. I don't know, but yeah, you're 100% correct. You can't rely on the zine or whatever it is for job advertising. You have to literally just, if you're interested in a certain firm, or if you're generally looking, you gotta do it another way. You gotta go on the websites. You just gotta send your stuff, whether they're looking or not.
This is it, and that's really good advice, because I'm amazed that I think that should everything go wrong in recruitment, and look, I really enjoy it. Maybe there's a career for me in terms of just, I'm going to be like that annoying gym coach or whatever that says, send the CV out, come on, you can do it, one more. But I do think, and I will listen to a lot of people at the moment, that anyone waiting on the job boards, you have to wake up a bit. You really need to wake up because it's competitive. And what I like about your story is you got there in the end, and I think that's brilliant to talk about K2. But I really enjoy talking about this search as well, because the pursuit of finding a job, especially when you've got one or two barriers to entry and into a job currently in the UK, and the fact that you did it is impressive. And would you say most of it, obviously it's down to you and your work, and they saw something there, but a lot of it was surely persistence and just going for it.
Yeah, networking. I mean, Jason was a great help because obviously, I got this based on my work and everything. But when you network with people and then they see something in you, they're willing to help you out because they saw something in you. And then they'll talk to others and be like, oh, I have a great person. Like, look at their CV. You know what I mean? Like, it's and you don't have to do it face to face. I think this is also another subject to talk about. I don't know, maybe not now, but LinkedIn. Like, I know people on LinkedIn, they literally wouldn't even accept requests from people that they don't know. And I'm like, it's not Facebook, it's LinkedIn. It's your network. The main point is networking with people that you don't know. What's the point of just having on LinkedIn people that you know? It's not, I don't think it works like this. All the interesting people I meet off LinkedIn. I've never some of them, I didn't see them before, and I just talked to them because that's what LinkedIn is for. So just making networking and making connections on LinkedIn is really important and I see a lot of people who do great things as well. Like, I've seen the post a few days ago on LinkedIn. Someone was like, I worked here, I did this and did that. I'm currently looking for a job in this sector. And people literally, they don't even wait for firms to advertise. They just advertise themselves. And I think that's a great strategy as well.
Yeah, it's a very good strategy. I think the LinkedIn is a tool, and it's a really good tool. It just comes down to, as you said, the individual to use it. And so part of what I do in terms of my job is that a lot of the connections I make are through LinkedIn as well. And we originally spoke through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
We never met before this, didn't we? It was kind of like a blind date podcast thing, wasn't it? I was like, oh, okay. But I mean, I was quite excited and open to it, and you were open to it. You're like, I'm up for it. And we're having a nice discussion now, but that is through LinkedIn. 100%. But I think with LinkedIn, it's a bit like, I imagine it like going to a city when I moved to London, right? When I was from Wales, you go into the city and you think, London is full of opportunity, brilliant. Mm-hmm. And it is. Yeah. But what you've got to do is you've got to go out there and get it. And it's the same thing with LinkedIn. You have to write a custom message to someone. You have to take interest. You have to have something to say, and don't just like a post, try to add a conversation. Yeah, that's my advice. Is just to kind of get stuff going and build these networks and build these connections. So tell me a bit. So you were at K2 for a while, and now you've gone back to Egypt. What's the plan then? Are you just leaving before the Brexit madness? And you've probably done the right thing. I should join you.
You know what? There is a lot of things to talk about right now because obviously there is Corona. So I mean, at this point, let's face it, in general, not just in architecture, people that are from the UK are losing their jobs. So the probability of an international student with a visa getting hired right now is kind of, just being realistic, not being pessimistic about it. But it's obvious that it's hard right now. It's even harder than it already is to actually get someone to sponsor your visa because every single firm is struggling right now. It's tricky. And a lot of people are working from home. What's the point of sponsoring someone so they can come to the UK and then work from home? So it's kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's interesting that, and I was speaking to someone about this today, because I always feel like the architects and architectural practice, and especially, was under the impression of, hey, we can't work at home. Right? No way. You need to be in the office in an architectural practice. An architectural practice doesn't work. People are home and working from home. And actually, that due to the one upside of this coronavirus, if there is anything to take away from this awful situation, is that we've all kind of learned that we can work from home. We can 100%. Adapt. And I think that so companies are now much more open to working remote, but provided that you can kind of go to the office a little bit, right?
Exactly.
And so there is still that barrier that unfortunately, while we're even progressing, it is going to be trickier for a practice in the UK to hire you if you're not based in the UK.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think a part of it as well is, I'm not gonna lie, like personally speaking, I have like a lot of personal reasons as well of why I came back, other than the fact that my visa expired. That's like the obvious reason. But other than that, I had like other reasons. So I enjoyed, honestly, every single, experience I had ever since I moved to the UK from 2014. However, one thing I noticed is, and I think a lot of people, if there are international students listen to this right now, they'll probably relate. At the end of the day, honestly, it's stressful.
Imagine a visa while working on all this stuff.
Everything is just like, and the constant worry of, oh my God, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? Like, it's hard to enjoy the moment. So say, for example, I remember my last year, for example, at uni, I was stressed out all the time. I was like, okay, because I knew how hard it was going to be to try to get a job. And, the same thing, for example, like when I was working as well, oh, what am I going to do next? Like, that constant struggle of what am I going to do next? Because that no matter how good you are or whatever it is, it's not, at this point, it's not necessarily about how good you are, it's how complicated the situation is. So you just reach that point where it's stressful. It's hard.
Well, I can sympathize, because part of recruitment is that I speak to a lot of people, and the moment as a visa comes on board, I've got to be really upfront about this. It's not like, okay, my heart sinks. So it's not like I've got a trapdoor, like I'm speaking to you now, and then when you're the visa, I eject, and I'm like, bye. No, you can't speak. It's not like that. But where I do genuinely think is the moment I get that, I go, okay, all right, we've got obstacles, and that it's true that it can diminish chances. And the other thing that I think is important for anyone listening is, because I'm a recruitment consultant, okay? So with recruitment, what you're generally doing is you're hired by the client to find someone. And normally, not exclusively, and they have been open to visas in the past, but what you will find is that if I'm typically going out to find someone, if there's a visa attached to the circumstance, it can mean that it makes the whole situation trickier. And so unfortunately, what you find a lot is that, and this is what I was talking about before, is that it's always hard to get advice from recruitment consultants, but it's not out of malice. It's because we're always up against the clock. That's the truth of it. And the reality is that if we don't find the right person, we're not paid. And therefore, bizarrely, it's one industry where I think that certain people's impressions are that we're all loaded in money and rolling around, and I'm giggling. But hey, I mean, it does pay well, but then it's in scenarios like this is that, look, recruitment's been massively affected. And what it is that when you were saying about stressful and not knowing what's next, I get a little bit of that in recruitment, as in you constantly have to learn, you constantly have to go through it. But where I was bringing all this point is that I do speak to people with visas, and it can be very, very difficult. So, I mean, this podcast can be amazing, because I'd love people to listen to it so that they feel like it's not just them. It's difficult difficult for anyone with a visa, and it's a tough battle. It's a real, and you have to view it as it's going to be really hard. You've got to go for it, and you almost have to go like 100% more than anyone with a non-visa.
That's the toughest part. You gotta like go beyond, like you just really gotta prove yourself, even though like you don't really have to, because you got your word that speaks for you, you got your experience and everything, but you just got to go out of your way to prove yourself. And this is where it gets really stressful as well.
Yeah. And this is the point I was saying, is that I wouldn't, in terms of when you get a visa, you've almost got to make it super easy for the employer. You've got to educate them. Like you said, you've got to make them aware of the situation and how to go about it. And then and that's why I think that typically, not exclusively, but probably the recruitment consultant is not the best person to help you on that front. I imagine. Did you find much success with recruitment consultants?
No, I was gonna say, like, I did try to go that way when I was in Egypt. Like, obviously I was calling firms and stuff, but while I was on LinkedIn, I was trying to like talk to, obviously consultants, like recruitment consultants, because I was like, okay, yeah, they might help. But I either got one of the two responses. It's, straight away when I say I need a visa, they just go like, oh, sorry, yeah, can't really do the whole visa thing. You know what? Which I appreciate, because at least I got a response. But what I really think is funny is when you actually have a conversation with a recruitment consultant, and then you actually have like literally like you exchange like 2 or 3 messages, and then the moment you say you need a visa, they just stop replying. I think that's funny.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, there's this balance, and I'm going to be really human about this. Even today, like for instance, now I've got 1 or 2 roles on in recruitment. And this is probably going to go out next week, but basically, if anyone listening in the future, we're smack bang in the middle of the pandemic. Oh no, right? Yeah. But what it means is I posted 1 or 2 jobs, and the amount of interest I get, and it's great because on one hand you've got loads of talented people, but where it's really difficult is you've got loads of talented people trying to call you, and I forget messages every now and then because I'm getting old in my 33 now, and because the only downside with all these tools is I'll get a message on LinkedIn, then I'll get a message on my phone, and then it diverts to my mobile, and then I've got my Outlook, and then I forget someone, and then they go like, "Yeah, contacting me for a day." And I'm like, "Oh no!" But there's no defense for. There's a balance. I do try. What I've learned now is that when I don't reply to someone, I finally catch up with them. I just go, "Do you know what? I'm sorry. I made a mistake." And that would have been nice. And that's your point, isn't it? If someone says like, sorry, but I can't help, or sorry, I ignored you, or sorry, I missed this, or, but when I speak to people, I almost used to giggle nervously. I was like, look, I'm going to be really upfront. You're in for a tough battle. You're going to get them.
At least you're saying something. I think that's where, like, if you can help someone, just say, just so the person doesn't like keep, like, because you get your hopes up thinking, oh my God, that person might help me, but then like originally they won't.
I'm beginning to learn, because I think when I first did recruitment, and this is like a life lesson, I did it in architecture as well. You almost feel like sometimes giving people bad news or giving people your opinion is bad, detrimental. It's a bit like, like the analogy of in a relationship, and your partner, he, she, whatever, goes like, do I look good in this? And you're like, yeah. Or, and you're just like, did it taste good? And you're like,
yeah, great. Love it.
It was great, babe. Right. Well, okay. There's an element that I especially when I started in recruitment, you do not want to hurt people's feelings. And
I get you.
And what I've learned now is that but before, what I'm getting is sometimes people think, if I say nothing, it's better. And no, it's actually talking is better, and having an open conversation about the fact that there is no roles, or it's very difficult for someone with a visa to find a job, or that for recruitment is unlikely. Having that conversation, saying that is difficult. Like it's even difficult for me to do it now and broadcast it live to the whole industry to judge me. And I have to be really careful what I say, because I'm like, I love international students, architects, but what we're trying to say, it is really, really tough. And what I've learned is that you have to be open and honest. And it was even today, actually, I spoke to someone, and you have to be really upfront and say, do you know what? I just feel like your CV didn't jump out enough. And I think we need to go back, because I'm not going to lie or ignore you. I was like, I think you need to either recalibrate it for the role, or you're probably not right for the role, because this role was a very BIM centric, a very Revit role. And the CV just didn't resonate to me in that way. And what I'm saying here is not that the person can't do it, or I'm on about in this world of first impressions or getting the information right. You've really got to hit home the chords and your expertise. You really got to hit home your strengths, and you've got to. I always use the analogy that we're in this swipe to the left, swipe to the right culture, and when you were saying before, you've got to get enough there that someone goes, "Oh wow, I think that there is something of interest here. That you know what, the visa's not going to be easy, but I see something in Donia's work. I see something, and if you don't do that, it's like that. You've got the one chance, isn't it? Yeah. What's that corny song? It's like one moment, one chance, one life, one thing.
I don't know that song.
Oh no, maybe I've even made up a song.
It's okay. It's okay. It's one of those you can jump into it later. Become a singer.
No way. That's definitely not a career for me. I will break windows.
Sounded
destructive.
But
wow. I know. Yeah. Look, the phone quality is pretty good, even though the distance is far. I don't believe you. But hey, look, brilliant. Right. Look, no one's here. It's not Pop Idol. No one's here to talk about my singing. I've really. Oh no, I'm losing the plot. I guess it's because it's late in the evening we're doing this, isn't it?
It's okay.
So to bring it back now, it's going to be tough for anyone in this search. So what can we... So Donia, so you're currently in Egypt. You're not currently in the UK, but you had your own personal reasons. You're going to go back. I would love to know the next step for you. What your plan is. Although I think you've got a little bit quiet, so the sound might have cut out.
Yeah, I didn't hear.
No, you're good. Do you know, sometimes it just goes quiet for 10 seconds. So
I was like, what happened? I was like, are you there?
Oh, did I go as well?
Yeah, so I think I heard it was Donia, and then it just went quiet.
So, oh, good. I filled in the... See, I'm a professional. We'll work this out. No one will notice the difference.
It's okay. All good.
But no, don't worry. I'm going to keep all this in. We're going to keep all this madness in. And so what I was asking is, what is the... Do you know what your plan is? Your next steps? Have you thought about it? What you want to do?
I mean, well, I've been back now for like 2 months. I took some time off, needed that. And then right now, I have a lot of things running in my mind. The first one is I'm not planning on doing my master's. I'm not going to lie. That's another subject, but tuition fees for international students are a joke. I'm not even going to go there.
Very expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. And I can't do my master's. Like, we don't get funds. We don't get anything. It's going to be ridiculously expensive. I think at this point, I'm trying to explore my options. So what I thought I'm going to do is I'm trying to get into real estate just to get an exposure of the market. And just see where things go. But I have an issue like over here in Egypt that's pretty tricky with architecture, and the salaries are a joke. So at this point, I'm trying to put myself into something that will help me understand how things are working, but will also get me money. If I'm being truthful.
Well, everyone needs, unfortunately, I know money's not everything, but unfortunately in life, it does help, especially when you're, building yourself up in life. You need to save up for a house and all this stuff. Exactly. So that's amazing. Look, good for you. I mean, real estate and property, I think it can be a really nice avenue, especially from architecture as well.
Exactly.
I think that's amazing. So I want to hear how you get on with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to keep me up to date. And so 100%. For anyone listening, if they've got any questions or if they're interested or want to say hello, I mean, maybe they're in Egypt, they want to network.
Yeah,
so you are on LinkedIn.
I am on LinkedIn. Yeah.
And are you in the Architecture Social?
I'm not, but I'm going to join
You're
now.
not? Whoa! Forget visa or anything, because I'm open to that. I am amazed how you snuck in on my podcast when you're not in the Architecture Social. Right.
Sorry, I promise.
Yeah. I can't hear. Hey, Jason.
Oh my God, Jason. Am I getting arrested now?
Yeah, I do not discriminate against visas or anything, but you're not part of my community, so get off the air.
Okay.
Oh, I need to send you an invite. I need you. Yeah. No, it's all right. I'll send you an invite. I'll send you, because we're going to post your podcast there as well. Yeah. And I think you'd enjoy the community.
No,
there was actually a BIM manager from in Egypt who posted the building he worked at, and this must be a fancy building because it had a view of the pyramids.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. We do have some nice buildings. I'm gonna give that to Egypt.
No, it's just big, isn't it? It's a big country, is what you mean, isn't it? And
it's massive. It's overpopulated as well.
Really, I've never been
in Cairo.
Really? Wow. My parents went. They loved it. But it's definitely an experience if you've never been there before.
100%. Yeah. And there are so many different things you can see. I mean, Cairo is completely different from, where the Red Sea is, where there is Sharm el-Sheikh. And then you have like the ancient cities, Luxor and Aswan. Honestly, you can get like 3 different experiences. And like, it's all so different. It's fascinating though. Like, honestly, visiting Egypt, I think, and everyone who's not from Egypt, I always recommend coming here just because it's crazy. Like there's so many good things to see, especially if you're not from here, you will get blown away. You'll love it.
Wow.
Yeah,
well, I want to do it. I've actually got a flight voucher because I was going to go to Japan and my flight got cancelled. So if I ever get my flight voucher and if I can ever fly again because of the pandemic, I'll come to Egypt, but
you know what? You've got a tour guide as well. So there you go.
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh, what an amazing guest, aren't you? I just got to get you into the social now, haven't I? So
yeah, I'm invited. And if anyone needs any help or has any questions regarding the visas, because I went through the process of the Tier 5 and everything. If anyone's got any questions, I'll be more than willing to help because I am really inspired by Jason's mentoring and it's something I want to get into as well. Mentoring people. I'm really good with people so if anyone needs any help, I'll be more than willing to help.
Oh, your internet's gone just when you were being super kind and you were inviting people in.
Okay, can you hear me now?
So I'm just going to talk a little bit further until your internet gets back. So
I'm here.
We'll see. I'm sure it'll come back in a second. Well, I got everyone here. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day.
It just goes off on its own. Can you hear me?
If you're not in the Architecture Social, just while you're here, you can sign up. You can join our community on www.architecturesocial.com. Hey, there you're back. I just plugged in my Wi-Fi until you came back. Yeah. So you were saying if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can.
They can. Yeah, I was saying I'm very inspired by Jason's mentoring, and in the future, I'm trying to become a life coach as well / mentor. So I'm not advertising myself as a mentor, by the way, because I'm not a mentor. I'm just saying if anyone needs any help, I'll be more than willing to give them advice or talk them through the steps of a Tier 5 visa or whatever it is that they might need help with that I can help with.
Amazing. Wow. And so generous of you. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Now, before the line goes again, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Same here.
I'm going to definitely invite you to the Architecture Social. Thank you so much, Donia.
Thank you very much for this. You too. Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.